The idea of correlation analysis. Correlation analysis is used when you have two quantitative, that is numerical variables, and you want to determine the strength and direction of the linear relationship between them if one exists. The first step in a correlation analysis is to collect a sample from the population and to measure both the x and y values. Using an xy scatter plot, we should confirm visually that the points form a somewhat linear pattern as opposed to a curved or bent one. If there is no relationship between the variables, changes to one will not correspond to any predictable changes in the other. On a scatter plot, this would appear as the sample points neither increasing nor decreasing as the x value increases. If there is a relationship, changes to one variable tend to correspond with predictable changes in the other. Relationships can be either positive, meaning that as x increases, the values of y also tend to increase, or negative, meaning that as x increases, the values of y tend to decrease. The correlation coefficient is a way to measure the strength and direction of this relationship. The correlation between the variables x and y in the population is called ρ. The sample correlation coefficient, which is called R, can be found using formulas based on sample x and y values, but is usually calculated using software. We can use R to estimate ρ. The correlation coefficient can vary anywhere from -1 to +1. A positive correlation coefficient indicates a positive relationship. A value of +1 exactly indicates perfect positive correlation. That is, we can describe the value of y perfectly given the value of x. This can be pictured as all of the points falling exactly on a line with positive slope and represents the strongest possible positive relationship. The closer the correlation coefficient is to +1, the closer the points are to falling exactly on a line, meaning the stronger the relationship. The closer to 0, the weaker the relationship. A correlation coefficient of exactly 0 means there is no correlation between x and y. A negative correlation coefficient indicates a negative relationship between the variables. A value of -1 indicates perfect negative correlation, which is the strongest possible negative relationship. Here the points would fall exactly on a line with negative slope. The closer the correlation is to -1, the stronger the relationship. Note that the values of exactly 0, 1, and -1 do not typically occur in practice. If we want to determine if two variables are correlated in the population, we can use sample data to perform a hypothesis test for the true correlation ρ. Similar to other statistical tests, to test the null that ρ equals 0, we look at R, the sample correlation, and see how far away R is from the hypothesized ρ of 0, taking into account sample size. If R is too far away from 0, we have evidence that ρ is not equal to 0. Therefore, there is evidence of a correlation in the population. However, if R is fairly close to 0, statistically speaking, we conclude ρ could be equal to 0 and that we may have observed a non-zero sample correlation simply because of sampling error.
Created using Powtoon.